wisdom. You are the source of all knowledge and understanding. Therefore, we seek your direction. Guide our minds and hearts as we reflect on how emerging technologies can serve humanity without diminishing the value of any individual. Help us to recognize that progress is meaningful only when it uplifts the human person, especially the most vulnerable among us. Help us to listen attentively to another with open hearts and mind. May our discussion be grounded in truth, guided by ethical responsibility, and inspired by a genuine desire to promote the common good. Bless all participants, facilitators, and organizers of this webinar, and may our discussion be fruit- fruitful, leading to action that safeguard human dignity and foster a future where technology remains at the service of life, justice, and love. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the
Amen.
name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis, for that opening prayer. And I would like to welcome all of you who are joining us for this Community of Practice JCAM Safeguarding webinar. Today's theme is safeguarding in the AI era, protecting human dignity in an age of intelligent systems. This is a very, very important topic in light of what we are living with today. I will not try to delve into this because we have an expert in this area. So our speaker is Dr. Elias Mukua, a member of the Society of Jesus, a Jesuit. He is the executive director at Loyola Center for Media and Communications, LCMC. Now, Dr. Elias has made my life very, very difficult because he submitted a 4-page curriculum vitae. And if I go page by page, it will mean that will take us almost half of the time that has been allocated for this webinar. Now, I will just try to summarize, and by summarizing, I want to already apologize to Dr. Elias if I have left out some important aspects of his curriculum vitae. So Dr. Elias has a PhD in media and communications, which he obtained from the University of Melbourne in Australia. He did that in 2007 to 2010. He also has a Master's of Arts in Social Communication, which he obtained from the Gregorian University. Now, he has a variety of huge experiences. Let me just focus on what his current work and experience is. So he is the chair of the proposed Hekima University, which is a Jesuit university for East Africa. He is the executive director, as I have already said, for Loyola Center for Media and Communications. He's a lecturer at the University of Nairobi in the Department of Journalism and Media Studies. He also teaches at Hekima Institute of Peace Studies and International Relations. He has been a national executive secretary for Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, KCCB, from 2018 to 2020. He's an advisory and consultant member in Catholic institutions, including KCCB. He has said radio audience research. He has done radio audience research and training with Cameco, Stam van Afrique. He is also an executive director for Jesuit Hakimani Center, and he advocates for social policies, for just social policies that promote the livelihoods of the poor, nationwide research on thematic areas, including a focus on good governance. He focuses also on civic education, peace, and justice in 5 countries, that is Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, South Sudan, and Ethiopia. He has also been the director of Radio Kwizera in Ngara, Tanzania, when he was working with the JRS from 2003 to 2010. He has also appeared on TV series and productions, successfully scripted, directed, and launched a 13-episode TV series dubbed The Rally, which seeks to explain but also to raise debate on the framing and priming of Kenya political campaigns. He is also a columnist where he has been in media appearances. Yeah, I can go on and on. He has also been interviewed on several news outlets and international human rights organizations, including KTN, NTV, BBC, Deutsche Welle, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, KBC, and Amnesty International. So this is Dr. Elias Mukua, and I would now invite Dr. Elias to make his presentation. Over to you, Doc.
Thank you very much. Maybe I can be allowed to put up my screen.
Sure, yes. I think you are being allowed to do so.
Yes. So first of all, thank you so much, Father Daka, for that long presentation profile that I don't deserve. I think you've eaten my minutes. I want to charge them on you. You could have saved yourself that image. But anyway, thank you so much. And thanks for the organizers for inviting me to this wonderful forum, very specialized forum with people who are highly experienced, highly knowledgeable on this matter of safeguarding, of course, way more than myself. And also on this topic of AI, which I have to say I'm only strong in terms of optimization. I'm not an IT expert. I'm not an AI developer. Therefore, I speak especially very strongly on the last mile, on the usage of it. And of course, how it does impact on our work, especially the work of safeguarding. And for those of you who've done this training, my approach is mostly from the media side. So if there are differences, please keep in mind that I'm looking at this whole issue, safeguarding in the era of AI, from the lens of media and communication. I'm told I have 30 minutes, so please do warn me when I'm about 5 minutes to time so that I can wind up. Because I have a tendency of talking. But straight to the point then, the title says that we need to look at AI or safeguarding in the era of AI with the intention or outcome of understanding how it does impact on human dignity. So as you know, we have artificial intelligence, and we don't have time to go into the details of what it is, but obviously this is a knowledge or intelligence that's external to human beings. So we have natural God-given intelligence, but this one is artificial in a sense that it exists to enhance human knowledge, human way of processing knowledge, with the intention, of course, of accelerating workflows and carrying out the tasks that we need to do in our everyday life. So AI has been in existence for a while now, but here, at least here in Africa, is coming up very strongly. The last, say, 3-4 years, we've been really introducing people to utilization of AI, optimization. The right word is optimization of AI. And many of us are still in the level of generative AI. It's called generative AI. The AI that we prompt, we put in a request, and it processes. And once it processes, you check what it has given you, you give it more guidance, and it acts accordingly. And of course, of late, you prompt it, but then it also goes ahead to ask you whether it should also carry out certain tasks. So in that sense, we are talking about LLMs like Gemini, Cloud, ChatGPT, Grok, and others, and the Copilot for those who have the latest laptops. It's already within the laptops or gadgets that you buy. So you don't have to buy it, it's already there, and all you need to do is to learn about it. So a majority of us are at this stage of really, learning an AI tool. You use it, you prompt it, so you work with it like your support, your assistant. But we're also in the era of AI agents. Now, again, I have to emphasize that most of us have really not transited from generative AI to AI agents. What's the difference? AI agents are those type of AI tools that can make autonomous decisions. They are systems that are strong, so powerful that they make decisions on their own. So if normally in terms of generative AI, you will ask it to do something. It's like a worker or a staff in your house whom you give instructions. They do something. If they come back, they report to you, and then you say yes. Or if you need more support, you send them, go and do this. But AI agents is like a very knowledgeable staff in your organization. You give them assignments, and you expect them to make decisions on how that work is done. And so they execute the work, they bring you the result. So they will have used their own decisions. So that's the age, the era we're talking about of AI agents, particularly in 2026 and going forward. And of course, there are higher levels now, more than just the AI agents. We're talking about agentic AI, where there's a lot of collaboration between AI agents, at least in terms of textual engagements. Of course, there's the area of robotics, which also has its own ways of impacting human life and ultimately human dignity. But let me concentrate on this area of the AI that we normally use on our gadgets, laptops, PCs, mobile phones, smartphones, and so on. So I will limit myself to that because of the time that we have. We also talk about the technological advancements that we have. Just trying to get this right. Yeah, so we talk about rapid technological advancements that are really, really growing at a very, very fast rate, really more than we can catch up. The things that we learned 2 years ago on AI, now they are totally obsolete, some of them. The advancements are very, very high. And all this is very good, of course, God-given knowledge, intelligence, but of course it does impact on how we think, on how we relate, and how we define ourselves. And of course, this is important in relation to safeguarding and in relation to how then we understand human dignity, the concept of human dignity, the Catholic social teaching on human dignity, and of course, even from the secular understanding of human rights and human dignity is one of them. But we do emphasize, we do know that children and young people are most vulnerable, they are the most affected, particularly on how this AI affects their identity. So it's important that we keep the concept of identity, that young people, children and young people, of course, by virtue of where they are forming identities. Now, the topic I have before me also invites us to reflect on systems, AI systems, AI intelligent systems. But these systems, I like to look at them from systems thinking. I think you may remember, some of you, that some years back, this whole idea of systems thinking was very strong. It kind of died maybe in the last 15, 20 years, but is very much back now that we're talking about AI, because when you think about the way AI operates, it really cuts across systems or institutions even. So within an organization, the accounting system with the programs or project officer or project department. So it just cuts across these different institutional systems, be it at the macro level, like a national level. Now you know that governments are really working very hard to come up with the policies, regulations, and guidelines on how to deploy AI systems. So they're intelligent systems, as we have said. Now we're even talking about these AI systems. So what we want to reflect on is how this AI can be integrated in society. Hopefully, of course, we all know that everything is relative to how you use it, particularly these AI tools. They are good if you use them well. They are dangerous if you use them badly. So that bit we know, that kind of approach we understand. But in terms of how we want to relate them to safeguarding, remember that safeguarding is about people. It's about vulnerable people. It's about children, young people. But they also operate within a culture. Yeah, so cultures, and again, from a safeguarding perspective, you have a lot of knowledge how culture affects or does relate to safeguarding and protection. But from an AI perspective, there is also a way you understand AI and culture because it comes in a different way, and therefore it does impact on how we think and how we relate and how we make sense of what we are doing. So we need strategies. We need strategies to integrate this AI. We also have operations. You know, there are many operational programs or things we have to do, and therefore we also need to think about the effects of this, of using AI within our systems. Now, I flagged the idea of identity formation particularly for children and vulnerable adults, just because of the time I have, that as we think about AI, artificial intelligence, and its impact, it has several threats. It's coming with a lot of benefits, obviously. I'm not a technology or AI evangelist, but I do see a lot of potential, a lot of good things. And whenever we carry out trainings, we really encourage people to look at the positive side and the many opportunities that are emerging out of AI. But nevertheless, for safeguarding, we focus more on the threats, on the risks that come with it. So there are several psychological risks, there are spiritual risks. But I think in terms of psychological risks, there are many anxieties. People get anxious, like parents. There are depressions linked to social media usage or social media consumption. There are many creations that we can make. You know, the people in content creation have a lot of opportunities than ever before. And again, they're becoming much more easier to use. These social media tools, AI-powered social media tools are becoming much easier to use, to learn and use. And therefore, they have a way of attracting us towards them to use them because of the way they are really rapidly growing. So it's no longer an area of the IT people or the people who are into AI. Any one of us can just use these tools, can learn and use these tools, optimize them for our work, but also the risks that come with that. So both at the psychological level and also the spiritual level. Let's zero in a little bit on the Gen Z, the young people. And we know that these young people, most of them own smartphones. Well, of course, we have the urban and the rural. We understand that. There are many parts of Africa, at least in Africa, where young people don't have these privileges, if you will, of having mobile phones. But a good number of those who have or who have a possibility of having these gadgets, they already can access AI. They use them, and even in some schools, they have access, they are allowed. Even formation houses, some formation houses allow this, some have their own, reservations. But what we want to emphasize is that the generation, the Gen Z, as they are called, is a generation that has grown up within this time of Internet of Things. They already are growing up knowing that a mobile phone is part of my life. Getting connected to internet anywhere, anytime is part of whom I am. It's part of my identity. And therefore, their way of operating and thinking around relationships, communities, building communities, part of it has to do with access to the internet, and within that internet space or platforms, they have these AI-powered possibilities that then can drive them to another level, as I'll explain shortly. Generation Alpha, which is also coming up very fast now, they are beginning to be teenagers, they are headed there. They also are very much into these AI tools. And of course, on the other side, you have the parents who buy this for them, and families and friends providing these gadgets to them. But ultimately, we want to talk about their identity formation. As they access and use them for sometimes very good reasons, sometimes as entertainment, for education, for whatever reason, they are also forming identities. So, the online identity as opposed to offline identity. And there are certain vulnerabilities that emerge out of that. So one of the research shows that in especially the global north, and even in our countries where families are able to afford these accessories, children as young as 4 months are being introduced to gadgets. And so you can imagine as they grow, they think this is part of their environment. The direct usage of, for example, in Kenya, of young people accessing and using AI is very, very, very high, given that not many families are able to afford, but within those who afford, there's quite some substantial access and utilization of these gadgets. And as we have said, the moment you have the gadget, you have access to AI-powered tools. So the screen time is another factor we need to consider. How many hours does a child access the internet or the gadgets, or on screen, whether it's on TV or on any other form of screen? Yeah, so this is important to know that more and more these Gen Z and the children are really utilizing their time on screen. There are several risks that we might want to highlight. One is, of course, aware that internet penetration in Africa is always rising, but also in developed countries, of course. But we want to look at this on one hand as a good thing. And again, don't get me wrong, there are tons and tons of good things we can do with the internet, we can do with the AI, but also from a safeguarding point of view, let's remind ourselves that as internet penetration increases, we're also increasing the risks of safeguarding and vulnerability. We know from research that some young people, and vulnerable people have ever added strangers, have interacted with strangers and added them to their list of friends online. And sometimes they have gone offline to meet them, and sometimes it has become very risky. There is the risk, of course, of sharing personal information because many of these tools, when you log in, they ask you to sign in. So you sign in, and of course, they collect your data, they have your passwords and so on, and they can navigate all the spaces that you normally visit online. And that's another risk. Of course, as I've said, there are many young people who interact with these gadgets, these AI tools and spaces within the social media platforms also, and they make friends, but they don't know who is on the other side, because even chatbots can manipulate language, or people can use this AI potential to manipulate language to fit into the kind of persona that the other user is looking for, and they can adjust language, they can quickly adapt the character and get into the mood, the tonality, the language of, say, the vulnerable person on the other end. So these are some of the risks that we are faced with. Young people, of course, use the AI for very good stuff, for education, learning, okay, for even teachers, teaching and learning, and the governments are pushing us to this line. So even within well-established institutions like schools or systems like schools, we also need to understand that they embed certain risks with them. So while on one hand, we are seeing like education systems, for example, look at EduTech as a very good way of modernizing education, learning better, increasing in the acquisition of knowledge. But at the end of the day, we also want to be aware from a safeguarding point of view that we're putting these children at risk unless we begin to think about how do we also handle or prevent children from risk online, but also not only children, young people, and of course, vulnerable adults. There are many AI-driven networking networks that really have the risk of appearing genuine, but if someone doesn't know, they could be chatbots that have been set up, and there are many, including avatars that respond as if they were human. And you know, now people look for support online for counseling, for spirituality, for education, for all kinds of needs, personal needs, user needs that people have. And so for young people, screen time is always increasing every time young people are online, and it's ever increasing. For example, research shows that in some parts of the world, young people use 7.5 hours a day for being on screen. From a professional perspective, in terms of young careers, you know, because of what young people see and children, and as we have said, they are always online. That's the age, the Gen Z, the alphas, but also the late millennials, and of course some adults who are, you know, who behave like they're young people. The influence, for example, of how to dress, this is just an example of how to dress, is very strong because it's a question of identity. The younger generation has its own identity. They think they have their own identity. They want to maintain their identity. They are really, you know, fighting back on what formal dress could look like. For example, even workspaces, even work hours, there's quite a bit of how these AI-powered spaces are kind of creating identities for young people, for children, and for vulnerable people. Yeah, so it's important to also see that even for those of us who may not be, you know, like we are not as such vulnerable. The power of these AI spaces and tools really can make us generate or think or imagine who we are, and that then can also lead us to certain vulnerabilities. For example, the image before you is a way of young people to dress, and they have no problem walking to work, in whichever way they dress. So the other vulnerability we might talk about is, of course, young people, especially the early careerists, the young people coming to job for the first time, just graduated. Now with AI, there are so many advantages. You can do work at speed, you can scale works, you can improve structure, you can correct language, you can do 1,001 things, which is very good. But what are the risks? Dependence, slowing in thinking, authenticity is a problem, and many others. What's the problem with that? We're not growing children to be whom God wanted them to be. So once they begin to be dependent, we're stealing some sort of dignity out of them, because then it's like we're plugging them towards machines, we're plugging them towards tools. Now, there are several studies that have been done, and again, this presentation is really to emphasize the question of algorithms and how they are ever improving, and the speed is really supersonic, more than any other time, and it really makes us believe that that's the way to do things. Okay, on a good side, yes, we need those kind of opportunities, regardless of the risks of displacement or replacing people, rendering certain jobs, obsolete and unnecessary. So there's a whole configuring of society. But what's important for us from a safeguarding point of view is to know that AI, especially for identity formation, can also, mislead children and young people into being whom God did not want them to be or didn't intend them to be. It impacts on their behavior. They become, especially through gaming, computer gaming, cartoons. Yes, and there are many blogs, there are many movies also that really can impact on the character and identity of young people. So, and again, the question of personas online is very important. All this culture of influencers, all this culture of I want to be like so-and-so, celebrities and so on, with AI-powered tools, they can be regenerated, redistributed very fast. And at the end, you have young people beginning to think very differently. Some really opposed to that kind of thinking. So parental guidance and institutional guidance becomes really very, very critical. Allow me just to rush through because I can see my time is going. So the negative influences, we talk about cyberbullying, of course, is a big risk. There are kids who have committed suicide. Sorry.
Just to interrupt, sorry, Dr. Elias. So interesting, we'll give you another 10 to 15 minutes to finish, but maybe let me also ask all those who are on call, if you have a question, please just send it on the chat, and then it will be taken care of. Sorry for that interruption. You can continue.
Yeah, thank you, Father Daka. So all of us, I think, are very much aware of cyberbullying, and there are we have cases, or you may have heard of cases, where kids have been abused online or bullied online. They went and committed suicide, or they ran away from family, or, became gangs and so on. So that's a real risk, especially with AI tools where you're asked to sign in all the time. Even if it's free, because there are many tools that are free. Even when they are free, there's always that embedded risk. Deep fakes, especially the synthetic AI, where, anyone can be generated into anything. You can be turned into a pig. You can be, people can put words in your mouth. You can be mislocated or dislocated somewhere. Yeah, anything, even Pope Leo or Pope Francis, they were through this synthetic AI, they could be given statements and words to say which they never said in the first place. So deep fakes, especially through synthetic AI, are a culture. Remember, for younger generations especially, it's fun, it's entertainment. Even when they do their memes, this entertainment is really, pastime. But in the process, what else is happening in their cognitive and psychological minds? Yeah, that's where we want to be a little bit more concerned. What else? Good entertainment, but what else can it lead you to? Grooming, of course, that is a big risk online, where unknown people, strangers, can use a lot of these tools. Even some appearing like avatars, different personas, appearing like very good people, sympathetic or empathetic, understanding, caring. Really, they can follow you to the context you are in, the situation you are in, really look like good people. And of course, we are talking about safeguarding. So vulnerable young minds can be lured to this kind of supernatural human being who's so good, so real for them. And maybe the environment they come from is not all that supportive. So, and of course, they are predators. Anytime talk about grooming, of course, you are talking about predators, particularly on sexual lines. So it's a real risk for younger people, for the youth and the children when it comes to online and grooming. Data privacy is a big thing. Of course, the question of nudity and the pornography have been a big thing. But of course, now the sophistication and complexities of AI tools is much, much higher, much more advanced. If we had time, I will have demonstrated several of these things, because then the believability is much higher. But nevertheless, it's important to remember that now, much as we insist on consent, especially an adult on behalf of the minor, but some of these things can bypass all that and still access your data, your photos, your mails, your documents, and process them in any way they want. Of course, including using your information to model some of these AI tools. Digital addiction is a big thing. Of course, this has been there even before AI came. The question of digital addiction, social media addiction, even for adults, it's not just for young people, especially the sick, the people who are grounded for one reason or another. You just find that your big friend is your gadget and you're online most of the time. So this addiction also is a big, big problem. But for the Gen Z and the alphas, this is a bigger problem, because for them, this is the world they know. This is how things are done. My parents look for me through my phone. So I have a phone. I look for my parents through the phone, where everyone is connected. So it's like this is a very essential gadget to have as part of my life. And therefore, what else can I do besides using it for school, for academic work, besides using it for tracking family members? There are also, big risks now, more than ever, that the kids are even sharper than many of our parents, many of the guardians, many of those who run institutions. They are sharper, and the tools themselves are becoming easier and easier to manipulate, and also to hide if they want to hide. So it becomes easier for younger people and vulnerable people to get addicted. Yeah, they can be watching movies, but what type of movies? Are they classified? Are they PG? Are they who is there? Some parents, of course, have even tools to check what their children are watching. But even that, some succeed, but the researches we have, of course, show that many parents think that they have managed to have all the safeguards around their gadgets, but kids are even smarter than them. So this is the kind of access that leads to addiction, and therefore there's heavier responsibility on the guardians or on ourselves to begin to think of how do we then prevent or reduce mental health among the younger people and the vulnerable people. Now, when you talk about vulnerability, of course, you in safeguarding you have very specific definitions. But also remember, when we talk about mental health today, we also have to include these external factors like joblessness, like family disconnects, and so on. There are many more reasons why people go online and engage, and even if they are doing computer games which have nothing to do with, say, pornography or being groomed and so on. But you can be addicted even to digital games. You can be playing with a stranger in any part of the world or by yourself, or quizzes, in a way that as soon as you come out of it, you want to go back and hide yourself and keep yourself busy. You don't see who is around. So social relations, social networks become a secondary consideration. Radicalization, of course, people who are into especially violent extremism and terrorism, also look at tools as an even easier way of accessing children and young people and vulnerable people for radicalization. Misinformation, of course, we all by now, I'm sure all of us know about the misinformation, disinformation. So where people intentionally want to mislead others, but also where people can mislead others, especially in this forwarding of messages before you think you have already forwarded to several people. By the time you come to realize that actually it was not true, it was fake, it was just a generation, AI generation. A lot of damage has already happened. Let's remember that there's a lot of this is an old from the old school of social media. The question of identity theft, phishing, looking for people's personal, recreate either similar characters or to defame someone. So it's a question of ensuring that we're very much aware, alert, that anytime we have messages on our phones about the persons we know, they are caught in this and that, or they have been alleged to be this and that. Always before you forward, you need to check that actually it's not synthetic AI that is affecting you, that has generated what you might be forwarding. Mental health, I've already mentioned that is a big thing, and it's important that we begin to think about, especially children who might be struggling from other factors, maybe family, maybe, whatever the issues could be. So I will really talk about spiritual implications also, because that's part of the area we are very much interested, particularly those of us who come from religious backgrounds, that now it's much more difficult for young people to differentiate between true, authentic religious teaching or Catholic teaching or whichever other religion teaching from fake doctrines that are online. There are many blogs and bloggers, many podcasts, many videos, many channels, TV channels that actually aim to distort. They are fighting religion, they are fighting the existence of God, they are fighting all this Christianity that actually do exist. And you look at them, they are adults, they are very intelligent people, and so it's a real risk at the moment. Even if you look at these LLMs like ChatGPT or Gemini or Cloud or whichever you use, or Copilot, if you ask them any religious question, they actually have answers. Some answers are pretty solid and strong and really very relevant. But if you have not been trained in that knowledge, if you've not gone through, say, philosophy or theology or catechism or spirituality, any of these domains that help you understand proper teaching, even where there are differences, you can differentiate quickly. It's going to be very, very, very difficult for pastoral agents in particular to be able to guide especially young people on how do you identify the real proper gospel or the real proper teaching on certain controversial matters. So I think this is one area that I don't know how it impacts on safeguarding, but I'm sure we can reflect together and see how that is a concern. But truth, of course, with deep fakes and AI, anything called truth is going to be challenged or a challenge for especially people who are not trained, even adults who are not trained, who don't have strong catechetical background or scripture background. How will they withstand the kind of content that's being generated now? So the urgency for us is to begin to think about AI ethics in our spaces, in our institutions. How do we ensure that the manipulation, AI manipulation, and all those chatbots and data processing tools do not exploit the vulnerable and the children and the young people? What kind of values do we want to ensure that they also dominate those spaces, particularly because, especially in Africa, we have not, we don't have as much knowledge available to AI as maybe some other parts of the world. Now, of course, if we were to look at the degree of progression by age, you will see that the younger, the infants have these gadgets that I put before them. Educational apps are given to early child. There's this early childhood education stage. They are given those tools. Social media is for the late, the 10-year-olds, 12, 13-year-olds. Adolescents own a smartphone. So for them, they can actually do things independent of their parents or guardians. For the 18-year-olds and the 19-year-olds, of course, now they can practice certain risky behavior online by themselves, and the young adults are AI reliant, dependent. So what else do we need to recommend? For policymakers, it's important to begin to think about regulatory frameworks as for safety spaces or for safety of online users, particularly children and young people. There are several frameworks that have been put in place in different countries, but particularly in Africa, I haven't seen a lot of them. Some of them are kind of adaptations or customizations, but I'm not sure whether they are really serving the local context. So for teachers, there is, for teachers and parents particularly, there's really importance of understanding young people, children, and creating that closeness, of course, appropriate closeness that enables them to be open so that you can guide them. Because at certain age, rebellion by biological growth is something young people go through. So it's important that we also look at that. For managers of organizations, it's important that we really intensify. For example, at LCMC where I am, we do a lot of online training for schools, for different institutions, and especially those who are within the religious circles, the dioceses, and so on. Because it's very important that the leaders of institutions understand the extent to which these technological advancements are happening, so that at least they can think about how do we prevent, how do we direct those good opportunities into good use rather than into, yes, good use plus a lot of risk. Yeah, so I talk about foresight spirituality and its recognition in many ways. We need to discern the present, imagine the future with this rapid AI that good as it is, wonderful as it is, also can undermine human dignity, the character, the image, the identity of young people or vulnerable people. We need to think about choosing a path in terms of the policies in our institutions, just the same way we have safeguarding protocols or safeguarding rules that we pin on the wall. But this is much more complex and fluid because you really don't, it's not an institution that can monitor, police a child or a parent, parents who buy these gadgets for their children. So we have to rethink about new ways of safeguarding these children. Now, the last slide for me is really to say, much as we think about AI, perhaps as carrying or bringing along risks, we also need to think about adaptive intelligence. Adaptive intelligence is the capacity to move with technology as it comes in line with what we are discussing. That somehow, some of us are very skeptical about all these AI and so on, makes us lazy thinkers and all that. Yeah, and of course it's true. Those in learning institutions, we know the kind of challenges we're going through with the papers that students generate in public universities is even worse. So yes, all those are there, but how the technology is really coming and it can be part of who we are, may not disappear. So how do we quickly adapt so that we're able to mitigate risks as we move on? Even our apostolic works need to be creative, innovative, because as this technology is also shifting our relationships, we need to be apostolically very sensitive and very innovative so that we can help the young people to become the kind of images and creation God intended them to be. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elias Mkua. I think Sister Mary is going to moderate the question and answer. And so I would like to introduce her. Sister Dr. Mary Nzilani is a member of the Sisters of Mary, Mother of God of Mombasa, Kenya. She is a pastoral theologian with a PhD. She also has 2 diplomas on catechetics and pastoral ministry. She has a diploma in peace and justice, all from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, Nairobi, Kenya. She has several certificates of safeguarding, inclusive of safeguarding of children and vulnerable adults, which she obtained in 2024. She is a lecturer at Kima University College. Dr. Sister Nzilani, please, you have the floor now.
Thank you very much, our moderator, and thank you to our presenter, Dr. Elias, for enlightening us more on AI in safeguarding. And you have helped us to understand that AI is to enhance our human knowledge and giving us the types of AI as narrow, as general, as also super. And you have helped us to understand that this can influence us, especially on how we think, how we relate, and how we define ourselves. And so we need to integrate, especially, oh my God, especially when it comes to culture, we need to integrate. And for us to be able to integrate, we need to have strategies that can help us. And also, this is because AI can mislead us, especially when it comes to identity formation. And this can lead to negative inferences like misinformation, like identity theft, like digital addiction. And this we can see today how, or rather, what is happening today in our world and especially among ourselves. And so for us to manage, we need to adapt, that is to be able to mitigate the risks that are upon it, as well as to be creative or innovative, also to be apostolic sensitive when it comes to these challenges. So thank you very much for the insights that we have gotten. And now allow me to go to questions. Allow me to give you a set of 3 questions that I go, and then after I'll be giving more. So the first question is, how can one balance between use of phones and discernment in initial stages of formation? How can one balance between use of phones and discernment in initial stages of formation? That is one. Number 2 is, beside the negative use of AI, how can we detect that this comes from AI? An example of writing. How can we detect that this comes from AI? Another question is, could you clarify on Read AI? Read AI. Over to you, Doc.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for the questions, including those that are on the chat. Use of phones in all stages of formation. We do train actual formaters, and this is one of their nightmares. Different congregations have different policies. Some say you're coming to us, you come, we teach you, we orient you on who we are. Some are a little bit open, saying, yeah, okay, we have to negotiate this because that's your life, that's how you've been brought up, so we negotiate a bit. There doesn't seem to be a very straightforward answer. One thing that there are ways in which formators have, from the many sessions we have had with them, to conclude. One, there are some areas of formation you can't change. For example, the charisma of the congregation, the rules of the church, those ones you can't negotiate. But in terms of use of these gadgets, there seems to be a way in which formaters say, especially for novitiate, it needs to be guarded so that it's not diluted with the other, external access of information. You need to protect that time so that young people, young formees can reflect. But as they come to generate more and more, they should be trained and educated enough to make choices. The way we train them on vows, for example, you can't police a person on all those vows. We can put safeguards, but ultimately the individual has to decide, and that's how more and more I see it. But it's a pain, it's true. There are all kinds of stories around, for me, especially postulants, novices, the kind of things they do to access phones, a formatter not knowing whether they're in philosophy or theology. There are all kinds of stories. So I'll say it depends from congregation to congregation, but as long as you can safeguard that which is or the essence of religious life, then then you'll be safe. How do you detect? I think someone is asking about plagiarism and all these AI-generated papers. Now, this one I can tell you is a nightmare for many, many universities globally. Even me, I struggle with my own students because some students have sued lecturers when they said that this work is not authentic. Now, there are many tools online. If I had time, I will have demonstrated some, but please check something called Humanizers. There are many tools called Humanizers. There are also tools that check on AI-generated works. So there are all these ways in which, if you want to evade plagiarism or originality, that you can use tools that show that the work is yours. Now, that is very complicated, honestly. I wouldn't have all the time to explain, but what I've seen, some universities or some learning institutions are beginning to say, if we try to chase students on originality of their work, we're becoming police people and it's going to be strenuous. So what they are doing, some are beginning to adopt different ways of examining students to avoid a lot of back and forth. But humanizers are there. Children, some of these people who generate papers clearly are using AI. Red AI, it imposes itself, especially on Zoom. There's a way you can remove it. Actually, if you go to the participants, somewhere there's a place where you click and you show it comes as a participant, so you can just remove it if you don't want it. But even if not that one, there's Otter AI. There are others, there are a number of them. They just invite themselves, impose themselves, and so you may not have much choice, but you can delete them. The good thing, you can delete them. You can even close them completely. But often they are very, very good in terms of retaining the content and also summarizing what was discussed. I think those are the three issues you raised.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for your responses. Allow me to give us another set. How can we help the children that are already affected with ChatGPT as a safeguarding officer? And number two, if AI agent is capable of enabling competence without necessarily formal training, is this likely to affect the going concern of high institutions of learning? Is AI going to affect our institutions of learning and training institutions? Who should ultimately be accountable when an AI-supported safeguarding decision causes harm? That is the institution, the safeguarding professional, or the technology provider. Those three. Thank you.
Well, they're becoming more difficult. Some of these, I have to say, I don't have direct answers. Maybe someone from the platform here can answer them better than myself. Affected children, how do we help them? Well, like in the previous years where we're talking about social media platforms, there are programs called detoxing, social media detox. And I don't see another way because it's behavioral, so you have to journey with these children. And the best way is always to have some of these trainings within learning institutions or within parishes or worship places. Because if you don't, if you're not close to these children, many parents think, report that they get shocked that children know so much when even they thought this child doesn't know. They eventually get very surprised. AI agents, I'm not sure I got the question very well. I'm not very sure I got it very well. But if I understand, AI agents are autonomous decision makers. If within the university or higher learning institutions, one of the things or some of the consequences of these AI agents is that they are going to replace people. So if you had 10 accountants, you are going to have 3. If you had 5 social media officers, you will end up with maybe 2. Yeah, so that one, I don't see the shortcut for it. As I said, here in Africa, we haven't really adapted strongly, but it's coming in a strong way because now you can hire. The point is you can actually hire these AI agents. Who is responsible for harm caused by AI? Well, that one is very difficult. That one is very difficult. Maybe someone from maybe we have lawyers in here, they can guide us. That one, I struggle with it.
Thank you very much. I think for us to be responsible, we need to empower people so that they may do the right things. Otherwise, if we do the wrong things, then the harm will also come. So be it a professional, be it the technological provider, we need to empower people to do the right things than to do the wrong things. That's my take. As we wait for the experts, may I give you another set of questions?
Yeah.
How do we prevent mental problems provoked by AI? That is the negative inference, like pornography and criminal videos. And then, can you share management challenges often encountered in institutions where learners are allowed to use smartphones or gadgets for their studies, and where learners are not allowed but try to use them, though not officially allowed? What is the best approach to officially allow or not? Then, who should be ultimately accountable when AI supported safeguarding decisions? Oh, sorry, that's a repetition. How does this transition affect our responsibility to safeguard human dignity, especially for vulnerable persons, when it comes to negative AI inference? Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, so first of all these questions I want to believe can be shared with the rich knowledge in this forum. I think I know what the risks are, but when it comes to solutions, I'll propose if someone else can also add their voice, especially some which have a lot of legal implications. I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't know very well. But what I can say on mental problems or criminal videos, there are two ways. First of all, report any site that has this kind of content or criminal works that could harm children. Report it to Interpol. They are very good actually in searching, or if you can locate it to its source. Report. That one, they are very good. They block them very fast, and they always block very many. That one is doable. The second is advocacy, especially on soft manipulation, grooming, soft pornography, and so on. And there are a few challenges. I don't know if some of you watch. Yeah, there are a few challenges that are quite dehumanizing, and young girls are very committed to them. I don't know when that challenge closes, but watch on your TikTok. There's a challenge going on, and it's quite yeah, it's quite embarrassing. But there are very many people, very many young girls doing it. I don't know where the world is, but please, let's have someone else with more knowledge in that area to help us officially allow smartphones. Now, here we have to say that it depends on the family well-being and family training. If you go to high-cost schools, many of those high-cost schools actually allow kids to have their phones, except maybe in class and the usage, but actually they do allow them. So again, I don't have a very clear policy guideline on this, because initially we used to think that we have to say protect children, they are minors, guide them. But you know, the more you experience this, the more you listen to different experiences out there, the more you realize that every context has to deal with its own situation. There are places where you can't touch a kid, you can't have a policy that blocks a child from accessing their phone. So it has to be case by case, institution by institution. But governments are the ones that have a better and a bigger mandate. If you do advocacy at the government level, education ministry level, yeah, that one can come down as a policy. Then in that case, every kid can only access a phone maybe once a day or during lunch breaks. Yeah, then those kind of policies now can guide. But as individuals, it's very, very difficult, given that people, now are very protective of their kids. Yeah, and again, with this safeguarding, everyone is very worried. If I touch, I should go. If I yell or attack, yeah, it's very difficult. But government level, yes. Sorry, I didn't pick the last question very well. If you can repeat, but also if anyone else wants to answer these questions in different ways.
The last question was, who should be ultimately accountable when AI-supported safeguarding decisions cause harm?
Yeah,
I can say something.
Go ahead.
On the institutions, the use of phones. For me, according to me, it's not bad to use phones when studying. And I think every institution has the policies that they use. So what can be discouraged is the use of phones during like exams or any tests that are being done because of copying and pasting. But when studying, they can use the phones because it will help them to understand or to Google and to connect with what they are learning. But when it comes to exams, every institution have their policies to follow. Thank you. So another set of questions, that is, in safeguarding terms, where should we draw the line between helpful AI assistance and the risk of replacing human judgment and responsibility? Then 2, is it safe to accept cookies while browsing in order to access relevant online information that we need? And then 3, should the use of AI in monitoring children be expanded despite its potential risks? To you?
Okay. Let me begin with the last one, AI expanded for use. Yes, AI actually, it's a culture of its own, and these technologies are coming. One thing is we can't stop them from where I stand. It's a bit deterministic, but it's just the way computers came, the way new technology emerges. We struggle with it, but eventually we adopt it. So from where I sit, we just need to prepare early enough, learn how these tools work so that you can help young people. And when we do training as LCMC, especially media, children, and identity formation, we really, really emphasize, if you're a leader, please know these tools, even if you are not going to use them yourself, for the sake of the people you guide. Once you are aware, even if it's just trends, you are much, much better off by virtue of your office to guide others, to guide, the spaces, the people in the spaces you occupy. So I honestly don't see a time when we're going to fight these tools. We're going to fight AI to a point where it's kind of relegated. It's going to be with us, and many educational systems are adapting them. So the one way to look at it is to begin, unless we're really talking about a Pan-Africanist, Pan-African level, where we say, as Africa, we don't want this and this. Remember at the initial introduction of AI, particularly ChatGPT, some countries like Italy said, never allow this. They tried and they couldn't, even if they were governments. So they let it be. So one way to look at all this discussion we're having, especially regarding safeguarding itself, we who are safeguarding officers really need to learn these tools. And if you learn them, some of the questions we're raising, really you can answer them better once you have tried, once you have gone beyond using ChatGPT to draft some letters, to write proposals, to craft some of the daily works. Once you go beyond that, you begin to realize there are levels of complexities that are very, very fluid to capture even in a policy. and especially anything to do with children, the entertainment for children, the cartoons, the computer games, the quizzes, the scriptures. There are certain very highly sophisticated contents that if we as safeguarding officers, we don't take the initiative to learn, we can raise a lot of questions, but ultimately the responsibility is also on us. You may not go to jail, but you can prevent a lot of harm if you learn these tools. If you go beyond the generative AI, you begin to realize that you can do more. You can do more. So should I accept the cookies? I think that's mostly a question for IT people, and I want to believe there are IT people here, but whoever asked, nowadays, everything you are told, accept. And we even open to read. And even if you read, will you understand that legal jargon there? So most of us accept. There is nothing really much we can do about that. But there are people who are very keen to read. And if you read, 9 out of 10 chances are you are not going to accept. And if you don't accept, you are not going to access a lot of content. But there's also another reality. If someone was really looking for you, you cannot hide. The hackers are many, and there are many ways they can access your online work. Remember, even these AI tools, they can actually read what you are doing on the screen in real time. I've tried this and I realize it's actually true. In real time. As you work, they are reading, they are following, yeah.
Thank you very much for your responses. And I have another set of questions. How can the Gen Zs be helped to strike a balance in the use of AI since they are online almost full-time and they have a lot of exposure in it? How can society balance the benefits of AI in safeguarding children with the risks it introduces? Then, today we have many scammers and abuses in digital platforms. How can it be safeguarded? And then 3, how can AI safeguarding can help a teacher, especially for young children, that is 4 to 9 years? How can AI safeguarding help a teacher, especially for young children of 4 to 9 years? To you?
Okay, so many questions. And again, I already appeal to some of the participants here. I'm sure they have a very higher knowledge than myself, especially anything to do with prevention, because they also border on legalities. There's the technological side, so questions of settings, how to ensure you block, you do settings, and there are also various different ways of doing your settings so that children cannot access the content you don't want them to access, or at least you can monitor. If they go online without you knowing, you can actually come back and track and see where they went. There are those kind of settings and possibilities. But again, let me say this, to be very, very honest, if as safeguarding officers, I don't see a shortcut. If you want to be responsible, if you want to safeguard children, this is really, AI is a real risk. Let's be honest with each other. It carries a risk. There is no shortcut about it. It carries a real risk, safeguarding risk to children. So what's the best way forward? You really need a training. If you have not had one already, you need a training to understand these tools. You are taken through different types of tools available. We demonstrate to you, these are the risks we're talking about. Here, I'm only talking, like a lecture, I'm just talking. But I'm a practical person. That's why I said our expertise as LCMC is on optimization, the use. We show you exactly what is the risk, where is the risk, so that you clearly understand. So the balance, for example, of benefits of AI and the risks, how do you deal with that balance? It's only an adult who can understand, especially if you are dealing with the children, these 4 to 9 year olds. It's only the adult who can understand. The chatbots can mislead a kid. They can play games with the child can play games. For the child is a good thing, but it's only an adult, trained adult, who can know that this kind of quizzes, this kind of games, eventually they are misleading the values these kids will grow up with. If you don't have that training, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's like the people you train on safeguarding. When you train us, we come like we know until we listen to you and say, oh my God, we've trained people and they say, I wish I knew this before. And I'm sure you've had similar experience because we almost feel like, goodness me, if only I knew this at this point. So I want to answer perhaps in a simplistic way that even scammers and fraudsters, there's only one way you can do that. Please get into a training. AI is really, really growing at a very fast level, a high speed. So how do we strike a balance? If you get into a training and really adapt, get to understand some of the risky tools, some of the real dangers that are before you. And again, I like the question of who is going to bear responsibility if there is harm, AI causes harm to a child. I think, and again, I don't know for sure, but I'm very sure some of you can answer this better than me, especially those who have a legal mind. I'm very sure there's a degree to which a safeguarding officer is responsible. Because if you know these gadgets embed these risks, what did you do to prevent them? The same way you tell us, people in organizations, yes, you have done everything, but if you are not careful to retrain, to reskill, to remind, to make sure that the safeguarding placard that was placed somewhere has fallen, if you responsibility. My honest opinion is all of us will take responsibility, and maybe at the wrong time, hopefully not. Yeah, but there are many how to balance. Just learn these tools, then it will be easier. Even those who fear, for example, the question of papers. I teach all my students from undergrad to PhD how to use AI, and sometimes they really, really disappoint me because we talk with them, we agree, and when I look at the paper, I'm like, what the hell is this? Yeah, I get really mad. But it's only when you have understood, when you have interacted, particularly for anything to do with children. If you haven't done those games, those cartoons, those computer games, if you haven't really gone in there, you might look at it like it's not a big deal. No, it's a big deal, honestly. It's a big deal. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I know we have many questions, but allow me to give the last set, but from the hands raised. So Thaka, please, can you raise your question? Thaka? Jose Julio? Joseph? Unmute and raise your question. Benedict?
Yes, I just wanted maybe to make a contribution, sister.
Okay.
There was a question that was asked, who should be held responsible for matters of abuse in the use of AI? I am not an expert, but I would want to share that as Mwalimu has said, the LLM means a large language model, and the AI learning, it depends on data that is provided for the model to be able to predict whatever is being researched. So I should think for any organization that would want to use AI to do whatever, like the banks would want maybe to know who could maybe defect. I mean, who would default on loan on repayment. They use AI to get to this kind of information now. And now this is what you call agentic AI, where you have to source an agent to model whatever you want to achieve in your organization. So I wanted to say that it may be possible that you could trace that AI tool to an agent, or in the last 1 month ago, we had Google was being sued for making somebody addicted to their whatever their content. And so I was trying to suggest that it is possible that you could trace that tool to an entity. Now, if it can be traced to an entity, therefore, it means you can hold that entity responsible. Borrowing this example from Google and Meta, it is a case. I think it's not long ago, a few weeks back, that was broadcast on BBC some time back. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contributions. Taka.
Sorry?
Taka. Taka, are you present? Okay.
So, sister,
Yes.
can I come in, sister?
Yes, Jose. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you very much. My name is Jose Julia, as you can see in the group there. I was just listening to Dr. Elias on what he was exposing and responding my question that I brought in the on the charts there. I'm happy with the response, talking about the policy things they was bringing there and the other things. Okay, but what I want to know, which cultural strategies that are going to bring up cultural strategies. You know, I'm working in the school, and working in the school, there are many different situations of life. And we have some students coming from Catholic institutions, Christian institutions, or religious institutions, and the others coming from public institutions. We are mixed here. So when I look at the issue of the use of AI, if you talk to the student to bring your solution, which are Catholic or Christian information or values, they will tell you we are not forced to follow these things. So I wanted to make sure that, I want to hear from you, doctor, to say the big cultural strategy that we can bring to make sure that we prevent psychological harm of the students, whether Catholic, Christian, or not Christian, because we are in the same institution. We are serving the same God and the same people. So how do which kind of strategies, proper strategies, practical strategies that can help us to make sure that when at least we talk to the students, we are at least on the student, they will understand, because it's not easy today. In a special way, I'm not talking to the university students, but the secondary students, they are more advanced, even more than ourselves, more than myself, who is now 50 and something years old now. They are very advanced, more than myself. They have a lot of experience and a lot of answer to give to me today. Sometimes I'm stuck. Another issue I wanted to say, when we talk about the religious life, me, I'm a priest. And when I look at the formation today, my brothers and my sisters, with a good men or a lot of knowledge, technology, even science more than myself, because I'm already down there old. I am having some problems of making sure that my brothers and sisters today, they understand properly the new life in the church today. Because if you tell them that we talk about, because when we talk about psychological issue, the psychological issue can come from issues that are related even from the poverty, the vows themselves, poverty, for example. We talk about poverty. They will tell you that my poverty is not the same that you are understanding. For example, I want to just to give a very simple example. We are the same, we are different congregations. These ladies, young sisters are coming, or brothers are coming. Some of them are given some money, which are not in the congregation, a lot of money. Others, they are not given the same. But at the same time, we were talking about the poverty. If you tell that, they would tell you, oh, I'm suffering because my superior are not giving me enough for me to survive and to meet some situations. And this issue are affecting psychologically people. How to meet now between the religious poverty that we are talking and to respond to the psychological problems that my brothers and sisters are facing today. I hope that you have understood what I'm trying to mean here. My English is very poor. I'm from Mozambique, speaking Portuguese. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to you, Doc.
Yeah, Father is speaking from experience, and when you listen question from someone who really wants practical responses, it always it takes a different turn. But let me say this, we have done a lot of trainings ourselves as LCMC in high schools on AI, and I agree with you. It's not easy because they think you are there to stop them from being who they are. And that's why we're talking about identity. And again, if you go to high-end schools, you are not going to succeed a lot because they think you're one of those who are averse to technology development. And again, in other institutions, there are lecturers who are very opposed to AI, and they just think that we're ruining these children and we're misleading them. But in terms of what can you do with these high schools, cultural strategy, as you say, I'm not sure whether I have a cultural strategy, but perhaps the many participants here can also weigh in. One that I know we have tried and succeeded to a small extent, because there's a lot of intergenerational differences here, much more pronounced because of where technology is you train you ensure that AI literacy program happens in your school by class, because then you have more time with them, or as at a pastoral level, maybe, or after Sunday, in Sunday school, depending on the level, some space where you can really engage. And what seems to work, I can tell you, I'm not the youngest in this forum. I have younger people in the staff, and each time we have gone out to talk with young people, I feel like I'm telling them better ideas, I'm giving them, better skills. But when the younger staff, their age mate speaks, they quickly, agree, they quickly seem to understand what they are saying. So many times I've learned to just to train young people to want to talk to fellow young people. That's the thing I've seen work. But for us adults, or maybe for you fathers, the principal of a school, going to tell them it's not going to work. They look at you and feel like you are anti-development. So train a pool of young people to work with the fellow young people. That's one way. It's just one way. It's what we have tried, has worked to some extent. But the formation one, yes, those ones I can say we've worked a lot with formators, we've worked a lot with formees, and the AI, the technology side is the most painful, is the most difficult. We still have a number of formaters in the school of understanding that these gadgets are a disruption, are a distraction for formation to take place. There are those who are like that. There are those who are opening up, so they have certain hours where they give them these gadgets. So yeah, maybe others can contribute, but I completely concur and resonate with the points fathers raised. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Doc, for your responses, for your readiness to help. I also thank those who have contributed through questions and other contributions. Allow me, because of time, to hand over to our moderator. Over to you, Father Doc. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Dr. Mary Nzilani, and also Dr. Elias Mokoa. I was personally very pessimistic whether we'll be able to answer all the questions that are being presented by AI. And I think my hunch and my feeling was right, because I feel the issue of AI and safeguarding that topic, it's like a Pandora's box. It has just opened up so many issues. And I'm hoping that it's a conversation that we should continue. I have my own many questions about this, but that will be a topic for another day. So allow me now to invite Dr. JB, who is our boss, who pays my bills. So over to you, Dr. JB, to give us your closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Baba Daka. I want to extend the gratitude of Father Jose Minaku, the president of the Jesuit Conference of Africa and Madagascar. Our gratitude first to the organizers for putting this forum together. I think we had a huge turnout despite the short notice. I really want to express that appreciation. I want to express our thank you also to the translators and interpreters. They speak at a faster rate than the speaker, and their mind is working twice as fast as the speaker. So I really want to acknowledge those who do the interpreting and translating for our services. And we have had a very good experience with you, and I just want to acknowledge, and having French and Portuguese translation and sign language, that has been very, very, very helpful, and thank you so much. I want to thank Sister Dr. Mary Wambua. I want to start by congratulating you for your Silver Jubilee of Service, and thank you for also assisting in relaying the questions. I know the work that goes behind the scene to get those questions to the front. So I just want to appreciate the work that you do and say thank you. I want to thank in a very special way all those who have been participating, and there are new people also participating for the first time, and there are people who have been participating in different moments in these webinars. you will agree with me that the topics have been very helpful and also inspiring, and really opening our minds to where our, what Vatican II called the signs of the times. And I want to express all our gratitude from all of us to Reverend Dr. Mokua. This theme is the theme that you have exposed to us today is really, in French they'll say apropos. It is really apt and most important for today's world. You very early on in your presentation, you spoke highlighting human dignity, and that question that Catholic social teaching raises, it's like several buckets of water that you have, and if one of those buckets are empty, then that dignity of the person is not being respected to the full. And this bucket that we now have, which is artificial intelligence, is pointing us into a direction that many are frightened of. You have raised a lot of that fear, and you have raised also the fact that that fear cannot be a Christian fear. We have to chase it because we have to face the reality of the issue. And you have spoken really expansively on that fear, that we shouldn't be afraid. You really make it clear to us that artificial intelligence is not something that will go away. So the only option we have is to pay attention to it. And you highlighted that the best way to pay attention to it is to expose people through education. Yes, that is very important to us. You also highlighted the fact that the dignity of the human being is under threat and has a lot of risks when speaking with AI, because we have issues of identity, especially for the young and vulnerable. Of course, you exposed those vulnerabilities. I honestly registered more than 20 vulnerabilities that you highlighted. So which means that there is so much that safeguarding has to do when AI is concerned. So I really want to appreciate that. You highlighted two areas: psychological level, spiritual level, where those vulnerabilities are most evident. I want to say that the issues that we have raised here is actually putting a lot of work back to the safeguarding officers that we are. And if you thought that you have done trainings, you have trained trainers, so now you have to go and start again from scratch to begin training, because the kinds of vulnerabilities that our young people are being exposed to today has given us a lot of work. I want to appreciate you, your presentation, Dr. Elias, because you also mentioned a lot of areas where, and with your honesty, you said, I cannot give that answer. And one of the areas you really said this was about the legal issues that are being raised. It is true that there are probably very few answers to give once the responsibilities and legal dimensions are involved. But it doesn't mean we should abdicate that responsibility. It means that we have to become more aware, more vigilant, and more careful. I want to conclude this thank you by telling you that the suggestions you made about adaptive intelligence to investigate risks and creativity, apostolic creativity, are the two areas that you are calling us most importantly to pay attention to. We have to be adaptive. We have to adapt. So if your answer is no, before a child asks you the question, can I use my phone? you are not adapting. So to the question, should we give phones to novices or to postulants? I don't know whether you can go against that today, because that is their life. You mentioned it very clearly. They are born with these machines. They are even kids that are not yet 2 months, they begin to use it. So when they become postulants, how do you take it away? You are actually creating a safeguarding issue, if you ask my opinion. So we have to adapt. And then that apostolic creativity, you mentioned about how institutions are moving away from just asking students to write an essay. Maybe they are finding other ways to help our students to learn. So I want to really appreciate what you have done today. I will still reach out to you because we have other ideas in the pipeline. This subject is not in any way exhausted, but you have really put light bulbs all over in our minds. So I want to say thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for participating. So let us continue in our next month's webinar. So please keep up the good work, and don't be discouraged even if we come to you a few days to time. Just be ready to come back to the webinar, because we still have many more beautiful subjects on the pipeline. Asante ni sana.
Thank you so much, Dr. Father JB. I think I once watched a movie, I can't remember what its title is, but it says something like adapt or die. So I think that's what you are trying to say. With AI, we just have to adapt or else we die. At this point, let me invite Miss Lucy Monari to share with us on the next steps. And then from there, I'll go back to Dr. Father JB to give us a closing prayer and a blessing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Father Daka. I also want to echo my gratefulness to Dr. Mokua for responding to us and for being so exhaustive on this relevant topic in these days. I really appreciate, and I thank all the participants and our interpreters for being with us and accompanying us. I'm having a very bad network issue here, but I want to invite all the participants to join our online handles, and just be aware that now you join our online community, and we will be communicating to you on the next webinar, which is coming up very soon. And we really, really appreciate your patronage and for joining us and for being participatory, and especially Father JB as well for supporting us. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here. We look forward to seeing you again in the month of May, and a date that we will circulate very soon. Thanks everyone for supporting us, and God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Father JB, the prayer and the blessing.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Eternal Father, we thank you for this moment of grace. You have brought us to this very instructive webinar. We thank you for our presenter, Dr. Mokua. We thank you for the questions that this presentation has generated in our minds. We thank you for the conversation. Thank you for all those who have been present. As we go back to our daily occupations, we ask that this conversation may begin to become practice in our work, and that we may not go back with fear, but with the courage and confidence. As the gospel of today told us, the Father and I are one, and nothing can take us from the hand of the Father. Lord, we ask you, therefore, to put in our minds, our hearts, and our spirit that confidence that we are in your hands, and trusting that we will continue to follow you all the days of our lives. We make this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
And may our loving
And
God
with your
bless us,
spirit.
the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Please remain in the peace
Amen.
of Christ.
Thanks be to
Thanks
God.
be to God.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you. All the best. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Good night.
Thank you.
See you next time. Bye now.
See you. Bye now.
Bye. Lucy.
Yes, sister.
Hello. Hello. Yes, you had called me.